Hey guys, today we're checking out the Xeno Rex, the latest release in the Zoids Wild line, and in this video I'm just going to look at the Xeno Rex itself. You may or may not know that there's going to be a number of add-on weapons for this one, some of which have been released already, but I'll do those in a separate video. For now, let's just unbox this guy and check him out in action.
Shop.
Alright, you know how this works. Let's take a look at the box first. First of all, box dimensions are the same as the Burning Liger. I guess that's the new standard box size now. On the front here we have the Xeno Rex being sort of, I guess, launched into action from this tunnel here. I think that's how it works in the anime. Very Gundam, of course. Here, I guess it shows that you build it. It tells you here that this is compatible with the core drive weapons, which, by the way, we're going to look at some of those in the next video. This time, we're just going to do the Xeno Rex itself. Right here, we have an image that shows that it walks, the head moves, the tail moves, bunch of info, no spider diagram yet again. Here, this is the scissors unit that's coming out soon. I've actually already got that on pre-order. And here it shows you the impact Gatling and this other core drive unit that I forget what it's called, but we'll check that out when I get my hands on it, which should be pretty soon. If I don't already have it, I'm actually not sure. On the side here, the usual, it says Xeno Rex and a picture. Same picture here, bunch of text here, and the usual, yeah. So let's take a look at what's in here, which means I have to dicer this first, which apparently I don't know how to do anymore, hence the jump cut. Pull this out. Looks exactly like the insides. Exactly like the insides of the Burning Liger. We'll take a quick look at this in a second. We have the A bag with all the mechanical stuff, the S bag with some orange pieces, the canopy, the caps. We have the blue parts here, and here is the gearbox. Yeah, nothing really to see here. This is a standard sized Zoids Wild gearbox, that with the kind that we've seen a bunch of times now. So let's take a look at what's in these bags. The A bag seems to have several more bags inside of it. I thought we were done with that. Hold on. I really don't know how to knife things anymore. Quite strange. Anyway, A1, A2, two different collars. That would explain why they're in separate bags, I guess. The large bag is slightly different from the usual. This is the usual thick plastic that we already saw with the Burning Liger. Take a look here. This is obviously like the internal mechanical parts. Sort of a slightly green tinged brown, I don't know, off color gunmetal here. The other torso half, lots of detail, lots of the usual. Although I'm not seeing the usual rib parts. Actually, I shouldn't say lots of the usual. Here we have, you know, the exhaust vents and tubes and all kinds of stuff going on. This, I imagine, is moving pieces for the legs, nicely detailed as per usual. And we have the feet, which a lot of you are probably going to be pleased to realize are quite small. So it's not going to look like it's stomping along on these giant feet just to keep it balanced the way that Zero Grises does. Although personally, I don't mind the big feet on the Zero Grises. I actually think it looks pretty cool. Right. This would seem to be something else that drives the leg movement. Get this out of the way so you can see it a bit better. Also, detail everywhere. It's the other one of these two pieces. This looks like it goes on the back and has something to do with attaching the core drive stuff. And then we have this unknown purpose. This is the power switch, obviously. This looks to be probably the lower jaw. I'm not sure. This could be teeth. I'm looking at the picture on the side here, but I'm not sure what this is. These are the arms. Sadly, just one big fat chunk of plastic, no separate part for the hand. All silver, lots of detail as usual. This is some sort of, clamp piece that holds something or else together, and here's something else that will move from the look of it, but I don't know what it is. Then we have the bee bag, which contains all of the blue parts. Oh yeah, of course, the head halves are in a separate bag because they're pre-painted. Let's take a look at this. This looks to be the leg armor. It's a very saturated blue, which, as you probably know, I'm not a huge fan of that kind of color, but the detail's nice. This would probably be the neck, rivets here, and spikes and stuff. Or no, wait, no, it's probably more likely the tail, because this looks like it moves side to side. This is the other leg armor piece. We've already looked at that guy's twin. Another mechanical piece that looks like it goes on the leg. Tons and tons of detail here. Tubes and vents and more tubes. This is the other one of those. This is the tip of the tail, if I had to guess. These two probably go together. Also, detail everywhere, as per usual. And then we have these smaller pieces. This looks like, this looks like it goes on the nose. And I don't know what these are. So yeah, I mean, there isn't, it's like with the burning liger, there pretty much isn't a square centimeter on this thing that doesn't have a ton of detail on it, which is awesome. Here we have the head armor, which I'm actually kind of surprised to see. Shouldn't be so blasé about the fact that there's pre-painted stuff on here, because if you look here, I mean, this looks like an old school Zoids Wild eye, but it's not actually a separate piece. It's molded straight into this. Otherwise, looks nice and mean for sure, and very detailed. I've said that about a dozen times now. And then we have the S bag. It's the canopy in a separate bag. These two mechanical pieces here that probably also drive the leg movement. And unlike what's usually in the S bag, they actually have some detail molded into them. The crank pieces that the legs attach to, those come with basically all of these, of course. We have a motorcycle style pilot, and I think these are the Empire style caps. That's the standard now, and they are in fact completely white. Let's take a look at the canopy here. I'm just going to put this to one side, but actually I'm kind of interested what this looks like up close. We have this nice sort of detail with these flaps, ribs here. It's a really cool shape too. And this is where that nose piece attaches. It's also, I mean, it's kind of orange, but a darker orange than the NJR canopies were, which is nice. And finally, as we note in passing that there is no sticker sheets, let's take a look. This illustration on the back here is kind of unusual though, although it looks like If I had to guess, I'd say this is not part of the instructions. I'm an idiot. Yeah, this is actually a promotional leaflet of the kind that we've seen a million times. I thought this was printed on the back of the instructions. That would have been something new and unusual. This is probably an ad for the Zoids Wild Xeno anime. Don't know what this is. This is the video game, and here we have upcoming stuff. This is the scissors unit that's still top secret on the box art. There's also going to be these cannons coming out soon, which is really cool. And yeah, in that case, the instructions, you all know what these look like. This is the same general design as the Burning Liger instructions. We're not going to thumb through these. In fact, what I am going to do is I'm going to turn off the camera and I'm going to get this guy assembled so that we can check him out in action. Okay, so let's start with comparisons. Here's the obvious one with the Gill Raptor. As you can see, the two are really more or less the same size, although the proportions are so different that it's hard to even compare them. Next, here's the Burning Liger. I really don't know how I feel about the fact that the Xeno Rex is barely taller. I mean, I get that the Burning Liger has to look at least somewhat like a threat next to it, especially since it's the bad guy in the anime, but the Xeno Rex really looks a bit puny in this picture. Yeah, and speaking of puny, here it is next to the Zero Grises. There's no reason for this picture other than I wanted to take my Limit Grises off the shelf, but it's also just hilarious how massive the Xeno Rex makes it look by comparison. I mean, it really isn't that big. And here's a comparison to the Genosaurer, because that's going to become relevant when that scissors unit comes out. Obviously, it's also much smaller in this one. Now, before we check it out in action, I'd like to show you how the legs are assembled, because to be honest, that's the most interesting part of this kit for me. Alright, so here's how this works. First of all, there's this orange piece that you put on right at the start, and that then the neck armor goes on top of. And all this does is that it moves up and down. As you can see, if I go like this, see, this just moves up and down to drive the movement. Now, the first thing you attach is the actual leg, which, as you can see and you also saw in the unboxing, is just one solid piece except for the foot being separate. And it goes on like this and is then attached with 3 caps. Now, like this, of course, it's pretty much just another box standard Zoids Wild leg, in that it just sort of does this circular motion, sorry about that, that, you know, helps the Zoid walk. And now, in order for it to actually appear as though it's jointed, what you do is you attach this piece like so, and then here to this fixed peg you attach the leg armor here like that, and then we have this situation going on where you can see how they're moving against each other, and it sort of creates this impression that there's a knee joint here when there actually isn't one. Also, by the way, the way the arm moves is just that it rests like via the forces of gravity against this piece here, which I haven't attached correctly, which then pushes it up and down, and then unfortunately that doesn't work that well, which you're about to see in the motion footage. But yeah, this is how the leg is assembled. It's probably the most interesting part of the assembly for this Zoid. Right, now here's what all that looks like in motion. The leg movement really is pretty cool, but I'm gonna be honest, the herky-jerky way the mouth opens and closes, that's really not doing it for me. The arms are also kind of a problem. I'm still not convinced they're supposed to move like this. They look like they're getting stuck halfway down and then drop all the way. But I was so sure that there was something wrong here that I built both of the kits I'd ordered to see if the second one would move differently, and well, they both move exactly like this. Oh, and here's a look at the cockpit. I'm all for clear canopies on Zoid heads, of course, but this just isn't as big of a deal for me as it is for some people. Part of that is what the cockpit being in the head does to the proportions, especially from the front like in this picture. I mean, the head just looks way too big. Now, I will say that part of this is just what it ends up looking like in pictures. If you look at it from the side like this, the proportions suddenly appear much better. I also won't deny that it's a cool looking head. I mean, it's mean, it's cluttered, you know, like a Zoid is supposed to look. Still though, you can't help thinking they could have just made the whole model bigger and it would have looked better. The head being this big really can't be helped if it has to house a pilot figure, but given that the Xeno Rex looks kind of small next to pretty much everything else, it really seems like there was an obvious solution here. I guess we'll see what happens when the scissors unit comes out. That set has some parts to make the whole Zoid bigger, so that might make a big difference. So yeah, I guess I'm a bit ambivalent about this guy. Building it felt more like an old school Zoid than basically anything since the Zoids Wild line started, and the whole movement mechanism is definitely interesting, but it also ends up moving in a way that I really don't think is all that great. And there's the issues with the proportions I talked about a minute ago. At the same time though, it is a dinosaur Zoid with tons of mechanical detail and a clear canopy on the head, and that's, well, those are the best ones, I'm sorry. I'm also really looking forward to the core drive sets for this thing and the collar variant that's coming out soon. Plus, I think a good paint job could really make this one shine, so I may or may not do that soon or eventually, or, you know. Anyway, that's it for this one. If you'd like to support this channel, I have Patreon and PayPal links in the description, or you can just give this video a like. That already helps me out a ton. I'll have the first batch of core drive weapons up next, probably next week, so if you don't want to miss that, now's a good time to subscribe and hit that notification bell while you're at it. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.